of the Superdome horror in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. Also in tonight's programme, Cup glory for Hampshire. Back home with the silverware, the Rose Bowl celebrates as Hampshire win the C&G Trophy. And Arthur's first-class collection in his own backyard. We've watched the pictures with horror and listened to the stories with disbelief. Hurricane Katrina has devastated Gulf Coast states in America, forced mass evacuations, left thousands dead and a country in shock. The American government has now asked for help from outside countries. And this was the scene in Portsmouth today as thousands of ration packs normally used by the British Armed Services were being made up, ready to be flown to the States. Flights have been leaving from RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire. A great many of those caught up in the hurricane aftermath have been tourists, and the lucky ones have been returning home. But with them, they bring stories of sheer horror. Our reporter Sean Killick went to meet one in Sussex this morning.
Back home in Horsham, Neil Coffey has little more than his passport and a now very out-of-date tourist guide as souvenirs of his holiday. But all the same, there are plenty of reminders of his experience there. He was staying in a travellers' hostel when the warning came that a hurricane was on its way.
The advice wasn't very strong. People didn't take it seriously. We were given the option to stay in the hostel and suggested that it could be a party.
But at the last minute, Neil joined other travellers heading to the Louisiana Superdome and was there when the hurricane struck.
It was about an hour later of listening to all that noise that the roof started to lift, and that was really scary because at that point you didn't know whether the whole roof would come off or not because the noise of the ripping metal and everything was just, you know, horrible sound. And at that point we started to retreat back into the corridors out of the main dome because at that point water was coming in as well.
Neil spent 3 days in the Superdome with sanitation and security worsening by the hour.
I saw, somebody who had gone over a balcony, apparently had committed suicide. I saw a soldier that had been shot. There's so much, there was a sort of gang culture in there, and you could tell the areas that you mustn't go in the dome. With the females, there's a lot of young girls with us. We just escorted them to the toilets just to make sure they were safe because we knew that a young girl, had been raped there. And we just tried to protect each other as much as possible.
Neil is annoyed that when, on the third day, they finally managed to get a call through to the British Embassy, their pleas were turned away. But he says once they were rescued and flown to Dallas, the embassy staff there were very helpful. And although he's now home, his thoughts are with those he's left behind.
My thoughts are also with, all the people that actually live there. I met some really good people while in New Orleans, some of the locals, and they've lost so much and they need so much help, and I think that's the main thing really.
Hurricane survivor Neil Coffey. Well, the human cost of Hurricane Katrina is hard to imagine, but there is bound to be a financial cost around the world as oil production has been severely affected. It's now thought the price of unleaded petrol will rise on many forecourts in the south to more than £1 a litre. That's £4.55 a gallon. Here's some reaction from drivers today.
£1 a litre here. In Europe it's a euro a litre, which is 25% cheaper, and from what I can see their infrastructure of the roads is a lot better than in this country, so where's the money going?
I don't mind so much about putting the petrol in because I've got to pay it to get around, but it is annoying because it does seem to go up and up and up, and you notice in your wage packet that your wage packet's going down from having to pay petrol.
I don't think anybody likes it going up. We can see why it goes up, but what anybody can do about it as regard to the average politician or anybody else, we really don't know because it's above our head.
Well, the reaction from drivers today to the prospect of petrol prices hitting the £1 a litre price. But the knock-on effect will be felt far wider than that. Haulage firms, public transport and airlines will all feel the effects of a price hike, as well as private motorists. And that will impact on every part of our daily lives. Here's our transport correspondent Paul Clifton with more on how it will affect us all.
So, how hard does the price of fuel hurt our pockets? Well, it's gone up 15 pence a litre so far this year. If you count it the old way, it's now hovering around £4.50 a gallon. Measured last January, the average two-car family spent £175 a month on fuel. Measured last week, that figure has risen to £208. That's an extra £33 a month or £396 a year, and it's expected to rise further. For a typical higher mileage business driver, the increase is more than £1,000 a year. And for company car drivers, the bad news is that the inland revenue hasn't changed its standard mileage rate. Your 40p a mile has effectively been diluted by 10% this year. The good news is that 2 out of 3 petrol retailers aren't able to display prices higher than 99.9p on their machines.